Good morning, this is Joe Mosid for SuccessProgress.com. It's our goal to provide relevant content to our user community. And today we're going to profile a book called Who, written by Jeff Smart and Randy Street. The goal is to solve the number one problem of all organizations, and that's hiring A players. Okay, to define the problem, the number one decisions for business people to make are not what decisions, but who decisions, according to Jim Collins from his book, Good to Great. One of the hardest challenges that any business owner or manager faces, of course, is to hire the right people from outside the organization. Average hiring mistakes can cost up to 15 times base salary in terms of hard costs and productivity loss. Those are staggering numbers, so it's absolutely imperative that we hire A players on our team. For the book, 80 exceptional business people were interviewed, including 20 billionaires. And they were asked what makes a successful business. And you can see from the chart on the slide here that 52% encompass the management team. We need to hire A players. Hiring failure happens when the business is unclear about what is needed in the job. We don't have enough candidates to actually interview. We don't trust our ability to pick the right candidates given the fact that we've done a bad job in the past. And of course, we lose candidates at the end that we really want to join our team. We're going to talk about the A method. This method obviously has to do with the scorecard, sourcing candidates, selecting the right candidates, and of course selling the candidates on the job once we find them. First part of this, we're going to chat about the scorecard. Now, this is not a job description. Okay? The scorecard is designed to describe exactly what the person has to accomplish in the role. There's three components of this. They describe the mission for the position, the outcome that must be accomplished, and the competencies that both fit the culture of the company and the role. Okay, this helps us hire specialists and not generalists. If you think about that, we don't want the family internist performing brain surgery on us. Okay, so the mission is a short statement of 1 to 5 sentences that describe why a role exists. The outcomes are basically the accomplishments that we want to have happen in the job. We need to have 3 to 8 outcomes defined clearly. They can't be nebulous. The competencies ensure behaviors fit the organization. These define how you expect a new hire to operate in the fulfillment of the job in the achievement of the outcomes. And of course, we need to align and communicate this scorecard throughout the organization so everybody's on the same page. A player competencies include, based on the research from the book, for managers, ability to hire A players and to develop people, flexibility of the candidate, calm under pressure, ability to have strategic thinking. Are they creative and innovative? Enthusiastic? Do they have a good work ethic? High standards? Listening skills? Openness to new ideas and criticism? Communication skills? And of course, persuasion skills and their ability to work within a team. So in a nutshell, the 5 main competencies encompassed in the previous list are chemistry, commitment, coachable, ego under control, and requisite intellect. Okay, to source new candidates, obviously you can write a whole book on this, but the summary in and of itself is to network with other A players and always have your eyes open for the right people. Okay? Okay, the select component. 4 interviews required for spotting A players, and we'll dive into all these, but these are designed to collect facts and data about somebody's performance track record that spans their career. Okay, the screening interview. Screening interviews roughly 30 minutes over the phone. It's designed to have your A players spend the least amount of time with B and C candidates, okay? And so the real goal here is just to call the list of potential candidates to make sure we get A players on the team. The questions for this interview basically summarize in what are your career goals? What are you really good at professionally? What are you not good at or not interested in doing professionally? Who were your last 5 bosses, and how will they each rate your performance on a scale of 1 to 10 when we talk to them? Now, you're always going to want to go the rule of 3+ when you ask these questions. So once you get a response from the candidate, you're going to want to ask how and tell me more to really dive into those. The top grading interview. Patterns for choosing who. Ask these questions for each of their previous jobs. So if they have 5 jobs, you're going to want to run through these questions 5 times. Okay. Number 1, what were you hired to do? What accomplishments are you most proud of? What were some low points during that job? Who were the people you worked with specifically? What was your boss's name and how do you spell that? What was it like working with him or her? What will he or she say or tell me were your biggest strengths in the areas for improvement? How would you rate the team you inherited on an A, B, or C scale? What changes did you make? Did you hire anybody? Fire anybody? How would you rate the team when you left it on an A, B, and C scale? Third question, why did you leave the job? Now there's some master tactics that we can chat about for this interview as well. Number 1, you have to interrupt the candidate. Okay? Use reflective listening when doing this. The goal here is to maintain high rapport, and it'll get you the most valuable data, and polite interrupting can build rapport. Again, we want to get the relevant data out of the candidate, and so if they're going on and on about a particular story that's irrelevant, we want to politely interrupt. Number 2, the 3 P's. Previous, plan, and peers. How did your performance compare to the previous year's performance? How did your performance compare to plan? How did your performance compare to your peers? Number 3, push versus pull. Don't hire anybody that was forced out of more than 20% of their jobs, okay? Push is bad, i.e. you hear things like, oh, it was mutual, I left and it was agreeable, that sort of thing. Pull is good. My biggest client hired me. Okay, they moved up the chain in their career. Next tactic, painting a picture. Reflect back the candidate and dig into truly to understand what is being said. Dig in and use the rule of 3+ to clarify what they're telling you. Okay, we're looking for tidbits of information here to reflect if they're going to fit for the role that we need them for. Tactic 5, stopping at stop signs. To uncover lies, the biggest indicators when you see or hear inconsistencies. Okay, think of yourself as a biographer and you need to write a book about the candidate. That requires us to dig in. The focused interview. The purpose of this interview is to talk about specific outcomes and competencies as it relates to our scorecard for the position. What are the biggest accomplishments in the area during your career? What are your insights into your biggest mistakes and lessons learned in this area? Have 3 team members do a focused interview based on a particular core competency. So what that means is on the focused interview, let's say we have 8 competencies for the role. We're going to want 3 different people to interview the candidate to take a couple of those core competencies and take them through the focused interview. The reference interview. The key here, don't skip them. Call the references and dig in. Okay? The questions you're going to want to ask the references. In what context did you work with the person? What were the person's biggest strengths? What were the person's biggest areas for improvement back then? How would you rate his or her overall performance in that job on a scale of 1 to 10? What about his or her performance caused you to give that rating? Okay, dig into that. The person mentioned that he struggled with X, some particular thing in the job. Can you tell me about that? We are looking for ratings of 8 or higher consistently. Okay? Dig into the questions of using the rule of 3+ because most people don't like giving a negative reference, so we really want to dive in and not only ask what, but how and who and what else type of questions. Okay, the skill will bullseye. The goal here is we want a 90% success rate every time. Okay, if the scorecard, skill, and will all lined up, like in the first half of the slide, then you have a bullseye, okay? And we have a 90% success rate. If they don't line up, if they're separate, okay, and they're not aligned, then we have a 0% chance of success. Major red flags, okay? We highlighted 3 here, but I'll go into more detail. Number 1, candidate does not mention past failures. Number 2, candidate exaggerates his or her answers. Candidate takes credit for the work of others. Candidate speaks poorly of past bosses. Candidate cannot explain job moves. People most important to the candidate are unsupportive of change. For management hires, candidate has never had to hire or fire anybody. Candidate seems more interested in compensation than they do the job itself. Candidate tries too hard to look like an expert. And the candidate is self-absorbed. Okay, now when we find the right candidate, we need to sell the position, okay? When we find A players, note they have options. Either they're working already or other people are after them, because every organization wants A players. So the 5 F's that are important, okay, and if you think about this from your standpoint, it'll make sense. Do you fit the organization? Does your family agree with it? Is there freedom in the job? Okay, can I make good money and grow, and can I have fun doing this job? So the key here is we want to be persistent and sell at every interaction that we possibly can as we're working with A players. That's the conclusion of the book summary here, and obviously we'll have these written up in PDF so you don't have to write down the questions and so forth. I hope you found this useful, and please check back to successprogress.com for more useful book summaries. Thanks.